Welcome. Thank you for coming today. I am thrilled to introduce our Together on Tuesday talk, Growing Up Together, Recognizing and Supporting Siblings of the Undiagnosed and Ultra-Rare Disease Community or in families. My name is Sarah Marshall. I do community and patient engagement for the foundation. And if you're not already on our mailing list, we would love for you to join our mailing list. You can go to udnf.org to join. We also have online communities on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn. But aside from that, I'll just get started and jump right in. Introduce you to our first speaker, Jessica Patay, founder and executive director of We Are Brave Together. She was inspired by her journey raising a child with a rare genetic disorder, and she launched this nonprofit in 2017 to support caregiving mothers worldwide. Today, We Are Brave Together connects over 2,700 moms across all 50 states and 25 countries through support groups, workshops, retreats, and the Brave Together podcast. As host of the Brave Together podcast, Jessica celebrates inspiring stories, explores caregiving challenges, and offers valuable resources to support the mental health of caregivers. And her expertise covers topics such as preventing caregiver burnout, supporting siblings in families affected by disability, navigating grief in altered motherhood, and fostering connection and community for caregivers. She is also a contributing author to Becoming Brave Together, Heroic and Extraordinary Caregiving Stories from Mothers Hidden in Plain Sight, published in May 2024, this year. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi, everyone. I don't know if you can see me yet. I am so happy to be here and very grateful to talk about the siblings. It's so critical. And in the last several years, probably since 2020, I have become extremely passionate about this topic. So let's begin. Let me share my screen. Let's see. It's not popping up. One sec. Why is it not working now? Hold tight. One sec.
While we're waiting for Jessica to hopefully find her presentation, if there are questions during any of the presentation, we encourage you to put them in the chat, and we will answer questions at the end. We do not yet have our Jessica. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. I'll hand it over to you.
All right. We're going to start with a story. I want you to imagine that you're with your kiddo who is either undiagnosed or has a rare disease, definitely has medical or behavioral struggles. And this could be yesterday, this could be last week, this could be last year. And you're in a public setting, you're at school, you're at the park, you're at Target, you're at a family gathering, and your other kids, the siblings, are with you as well. And your kid, the one who is affected or impacted, is having a meltdown. We don't know why. It could be that child doesn't feel good. Who knows? It doesn't really matter the reason, but things are starting to fall apart and things are starting to escalate. You're noticing that people around you are staring with their judgmental eyes as if to say, control your kid, and you're feeling anxious and nervous, and you don't want things to get worse and worse, but you also don't want to give in to any demands that your child is expressing. You don't want to reinforce the behaviors, but all these what ifs are swirling around in your head. Like, how am I going to get this under control? How am I going to soothe my child? Are people going to just keep staring at somebody and offer support? And your other kids are also watching you, and they're watching other people watch you. And, if you've been there, you can feel the tension in this moment. Finally, everything calms down after you decide to just scoot everybody out to the car and out of the setting that you were in. And on the way, you're just saying to yourself, just get to the car, just get to the car, just get to the car. And your other children are with you as well, and they just kind of look like deer in headlights. Finally, everyone's in the car, everyone's buckled, everyone's safe. You're shielded from the stares of the world, and you start to cry. You're embarrassed, you're exhausted, you're disappointed that something like this happened again when you were out. A little outing was short-circuited again. And then you felt judged and absolutely not supported by anybody who was out there. And you feel defeated and alone. Now, imagine the siblings saying to you, Mom, Dad, everything that you are feeling, I am feeling too. Everything you are feeling, I am feeling too. I think sometimes it's really easy to forget that the siblings in the family, they feel what you feel, and that somehow their experiences and their emotional journeys are different from yours. Yes, the roles and responsibilities obviously are different. You're the parents, they are the kids, but the emotions are the same. I want to get something out of the way right now, real quick, because I know that from firsthand experiences with 3 kids, that diagnoses and crises and parenting challenges make you question this again, whether you can do this, whether you're a good parent. And I'm here to tell you that you are. You're a good parent. You are a good mom. You're a good dad. You are good parents, period. And you're here today because you care about your family. So give yourself a lot of credit. My story is that I've been married to my husband for 27 years, and we have 3 kids, Luke, who's 24 this week, Ryan, who's 21 with a rare genetic disorder, Prader-Willi syndrome, and Kate, who is 19. Both Luke and Kate will say it's chaotic and a blessing being a sibling. Both Luke and Kate were diagnosed late with ADHD and have suffered with anxiety. And so I have 3 unique kids, 3 kids on unique and sometimes worrisome paths. It has been a journey. Luke and Kate, even though it's been tough on them, they are amazing cheerleaders to Ryan. They are empaths, they are patient, and they are compassionate. And I'm very proud of who they have become and who they are becoming still. Like Sarah said, We Are Brave was launched in 2017 because I am passionate about parents being supported, and we are focused on caregiving moms. We are here to preserve and protect the mental health of moms by everything that we do, everything that we offer. And as of today, we have over 3,000 moms internationally, and membership is free. So if you're listening, I invite you to please join today. Just go to our website, wearebravetogether.org. We're also on Instagram. We have a Facebook page, all the things. So when my kids were growing up, I was very fearful about the impact on them. I was very worried. I knew that it wasn't easy to grow up with Ryan. Ryan had still does, a lot of anxiety, a lot of behaviors And in Prader-Willi syndrome, there's this insatiable food drive that is a crazy piece of the syndrome. So we live with a locked kitchen. I'm really passionate about this topic, and I was very intentional. Chris and I were both very intentional parents, and yet there are still ripple effects. Ryan is the one in our family that requires the most time, energy, and attention, as you can imagine, for the most part, for the last 21 years. But whether or not your child has PWS or any diagnosis, the siblings feel it. So it really, this talk could be given to any family that has one child that is scooping up all the time, energy, and attention, regardless of diagnosis. The effect is the same, the difficulties and the beautiful repercussions. So today we're going to talk about what the siblings need. I've got several points for you. It's what the siblings wish they could say to you. It's what they need to hear. It's what they need to know, what they need to see. And yes, I'm here to give you tips and a lot information and language, but I read this from one of the child life specialists that I follow and absolutely love, and she's a fantastic resource. And she says, the words you say will make impact now, but the way you make them feel, the way you make the siblings feel, will stay with them forever. Like I said, this is born out of my own experience, research, family therapy, and interviewing a lot of adult siblings. So number one, the siblings need to know that their voice in the family matters. They need to hear you say out loud, your needs, your wants, your dreams, your stressors, your hurts matter. They need to be reminded that you see them and that you are very aware that they have needs, even if they don't talk about them, even if they're shoving them down, which siblings can do. And I wish I would have said to my kids, starting when they were little, you have a voice in this family. No matter how involved and attuned you are as a parent, you are not a mind reader. So I would encourage you to say to your kids, Mom and Dad are not mind readers. We love you. We watch you. We are very aware of you, and we still cannot read your mind. So please tell us what you think, what you feel, what your complaints are, what your concerns are. You want to make sure that you also make sure that you're a safe place to land, that you're a good listener and validator. It's really easy for the siblings and the family to think that there is no space for them to speak up. Because again, the one who is impacted, the one who, whether it's, very demonstrative, medically, psychologically, behaviorally, they will feel that there is no space for them. So we have to proactively tell them, you have a voice in this family, and I have the time and space for you. And then demonstrate that by carving out quality time and being a really good listener. And I will definitely tell you about a time when I was not a good listener. Number two, the siblings need to hear it, that it's okay to feel all the emotions, sad, angry, scared, disappointed, embarrassed, about their brother or sister's diagnosis and struggles. They need to know that their feelings are normal, and they don't need to be ashamed for any of these feelings, and that anything that they have felt, you have felt. So here's an example of what not to do. One time Kate was little, she was voicing her complaints, saying something about things not being fair. She was voicing her feelings and thoughts, which I should have cherished. However, I pounced on her with, well, you think it's fair that Ryan won't get his driver's license, go to college, or get married someday. At least you will get to do all these things. That did not land well. So what happens when you respond like that? It really shuts down the conversation. It teaches Kate that she's not allowed to have her feelings And it leaves her alone with her feelings. And she might feel ashamed and she might start blaming herself. And it certainly means that I am not a safe person to share with. What I should have done was just listen. And when she paused or stopped, I should have said a validating statement. It sounds like you're really upset about ... whatever it was. I would love to hear more, honey. Also, at leasting statements feel shaming and hurtful, and they don't help kids gain perspective or gratitude or wisdom. We have all probably heard at leasting statements. You've got one child with, severe medical struggles or what have you, and maybe somebody said to you, well, at least your other kids are healthy, or at least you're healthy, or whatever. At least, it's just the worst phrase. Let's not use it, and let's not model that for our kids either. My daughter would say to me, I want you to check in with me about my feelings, and not just my feelings about being Ryan's sister. I have a whole world going on. Now, obviously, she was able to say that when she was much older, more mature. Those are my three. That's Luke, Kate, and Ryan. So number 3, the siblings need one-on-one dates with you. This means everything to them. They need time away, just like you do. They need time away from appointments and therapies and doctors, hospitals. They need time away from their brother or sister. I mean, this really goes for all families, but it's really critical in a disability or medical complex family. Dates, trips, or even a day together when other kids are in school or an activity or camp or appointment. They need and deserve breaks, just like you do. I encourage you not to place the expectation that everything be equal, that has to be an equal amount of time for each kid, because that's just not doable. When you have one child that has so many appointments and therapies and what have you, it's not fair to place that expectation on yourself. It's never going to be equal, but you can create quality times, intentional time together. It speaks volumes. I didn't grow up in a disability family, but I will never forget when my mom pulled me out of school to take me out of lunch several times. It meant everything to have just my mom with me. Number 4, the siblings need to know that it's okay not to choose a helping or healing profession. I heard this from adult siblings. It's funny, some of the adult siblings, though, that I interviewed did grow up to be therapists. But if your kids feel called to do that as they grow up, wonderful. But sharing with them proactively that you don't expect them to go into some sort of healing or helping profession, become a therapist, become a teacher, a doctor, a nurse. It's really important, and it's freeing, because kids growing up in families like ours, they place a lot of expectations and a lot of shoulds on themselves. Number 5, siblings really need you to talk openly about their brother or sister's diagnosis. It's really important not to sweep it under the rug, but because they know something's up anyways. So be honest. Obviously, you're going to use age-appropriate language with your kids at certain times. When we don't talk about things openly, it makes it scary or feel taboo, or like we can't talk about this. There's something bad or shameful about this situation. So let's keep it open. We don't want to leave them wondering and full of questions. And we want to give them information in a way that they can understand. One child life specialist that I interviewed in preparation for this, she says, only answer the questions asked. Don't overfill them with information. They do need to know that they didn't cause this. That's something that can come up. They need to also hear that although they might feel guilty that they don't share the same challenges as their sibling, that this guilt is misplaced, and it just means that they have big, beautiful hearts. I call it misplaced compassion. And, again, age appropriate, explain that guilt is a signal to us humans that we've done something wrong, and They have not done anything wrong by not sharing in the same diagnosis or struggles as their brother or sister. This is a side note. Kate told me that because we took so long to tell Ryan his diagnosis, that perhaps she had one too, that we were not telling her. That was a little ouchy. Anyways, we didn't tell Ryan his diagnosis till he was 13. I'm happy to talk about that later. Let's keep going. Number 6, the siblings wish they could say to you, please do not make me into a little parent. They need to know that they're kids. They get to be kids. They get to be foolish. They get to make mistakes. They get to misbehave. And we have to make sure that we don't expect them to be over mature and over responsible. And it's understandable that we ask, the siblings to help out or to babysit, to pitch in with certain tasks and certain, things. All members of families contribute. All members of families do chores and contribute to the family system. But where it crosses the line is when we start to depend on the siblings to be our confidants, ask them what they think we should do about a situation, asking them to discipline or tell on their siblings, expecting them, like I said, to be well-behaved, extra mature, or extra appropriate, and never make mistakes. Another thing that we can fall into not knowing is that we're kind of subconsciously expecting their behaviors, their choices, their trajectory, their accomplishments to make us happy and to make up for the losses or the grief that you feel for your affected child. And I know that you're not going to like hearing this. And I want to say, I know that not everyone has the luxury of hiring sitters privately, or not being in a state where respite care is provided for you, or respite hours are provided for you. And the siblings should not be the only ones to give you parents a break. There are other ways, and there are other options, even when they're hard, even when it's hard to ask other people for help. But it's possible. It's possible. I'm happy to talk about that later too. Going on, please have a special needs trust or a well-documented plan for when you are no longer here. Nobody wants to talk about this, and it feels yucky. It feels really morbid. But when you have a child that has a lifelong condition, a special needs trust is a must. And if you're not there yet, at least create a well-documented plan. There's also something that goes with the trust, whether you have a trust at this point or not. It's called the letter of intent, and it details everything. Think about everything you do for your child every day, and it's written down. It's there so that if something should happen to you prematurely, somebody picks up the letter of intent, they know exactly how to care for your child. Again, nobody wants to talk about this, and the siblings at some point, it will cross their mind whether they bring it up or not. Eventually, Luke and Kate both said, what happens if you guys go on a date night and something happens to you? What is the first thing we do? So it is on their mind. It is on their mind, whether they say it or not. Also, adult siblings that I interviewed who lost their parents, and their parents didn't have a plan, and they never even talked about what if, they were pretty bitter, honestly. And the loss of you is so traumatic. So leaving a little roadmap will help. All right, moving on. Please take care of your own mental health and get therapy to heal from your past. This is what I heard from adult siblings. Please take care of yourself, practice self-compassion, get therapy, get coaching, something so that you can heal from your own insecurities, your own traumas. There's trauma that happens when you are a medically complex family. Make sure you're getting the support that you need. And also, don't be afraid to reflect and look back and work on healing some of the past shame or grief. Again, I'm quoting one of the adult siblings that I interviewed, and he said, doing all the inner emotional work or processing with a therapist is more impactful than all the perfect parenting techniques. All right. This kind of goes along with the last one. The siblings need you to model practicing self-compassion and self-care practices. They need to know it's important to invest in their own mental health. So by you demonstrating that, you taking little breaks, making sure you move your body, engage in practices that bring you grounding and peace or light you up, even if it's just bite-sized moments of self-care, it's important to model that for your kids, and it's important for your own mental health. I'm a big mental health advocate for caregivers, and it's really critical to do that. I know it's really hard to step away from caretaking, and if you go down, the ship goes down. So we need to make sure that in little ways or big ways, we're taking care of our mental health and that we're modeling that for our kids. If you've never heard of Dr. Christin Neff, she is the guru of self-compassion. I encourage you to look her up, read her books. If you've never heard this phrase, practicing self-compassion, or what it is, it's basically, imagine you had a friend who's suffering, who's going through a hard time, experiencing failure, disappointment, just something hard, crisis. You would not be pouring judgment on your friend. You would be pouring love and support and care and validating statements, compassionate statements. So practicing self-compassion is treating yourself as you would your very best friend who's struggling. Number 10, siblings want you to know, adult siblings that I interviewed, my kids who I interviewed, they want you to know that they're aware, or they will be. Your kids will be aware down the road of the beautiful repercussions of growing up in your family. They can see, or they will see, that they are more resilient, patient, and compassionate. They're way more aware of crisis than they would be otherwise. They're aware of other people, and they're sensitive to other people and what other people go through. They are aware of how hard you have worked with extra circumstances and extra caretaking, and they're grateful and appreciative for the little things in life. I think, I know and believe that growing up in families like ours gives them perspective, which is such a gift, and it helps them see what's really, really important. And I think they tend to notice goodness and kindness and sweet moments and memories. And that is priceless. That is priceless. Some of you might be sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't done any of these things, or I'm not sure the ages of your kids here. If your kids are older, it's never too late to start any of these practices. So please give yourself grace. Please give yourself grace. And it's never too late to repair, which was something that was really important for me to hear, especially as things came out in the last few years as Luke and Kate were teenagers. Dr. Becky Kennedy is a wonderful parenting expert, and she says that repair is critical. She has a great TED Talk. I encourage you to look it up. And she says that there is nothing as important in our interpersonal relationships as repair. Repair is going back to a moment of disconnection, a moment of struggle, naming what happened, taking responsibility, acknowledging the impact, and then stating what you would do different. It takes so much practice. We are definitely not taught about repair, I think, from our parents' generation. But we can do things differently. We can learn all about this. And I will honestly say, I am working on repair with my kids. I want to end with this, is that the only thing I am grateful to the pandemic for is that it brought Kate's struggles with depression and anxiety to light. As a sibling, she shoved them down. And she hid her struggles really well because she had good grades on the outside, good grades, good friends. She was involved in club volleyball, and she was involved in youth group. She was very high functioning, but she was also functioning in overdrive to hide what was really going on. And then the shutdown came, and we're 24/7 as a family. And within 2 months, she couldn't hide it anymore. And it came to light. And I will say, as someone who thought she was attuned and intentional as a parent, I was gutted. I just heaped so much judgment on myself. How did I not see this? How did I not know? I have a good relationship with Kate. How could she hide it so well? I thought I was doing all the right things. I thought I was keeping the communication lines open. We very much allowed Luke or Kate to say, "This sucks, Mom. This stinks. This is hard. I don't like this. It's really hard having a brother with PWS." And when one child in the family takes up all the time and energy and attention, if we don't proactively tell our other kids to speak up and that their voice matters, they will really tell themselves that they must be the quietest, without needs, overly mature or overly responsible, that they need to be the good kid and not make any waves, not stress anybody out, not be noticed. They tell themselves that they must be the most uncomplicated kid in the family. And they will try to make themselves invisible. So it's our job to say, "I see you and I love you. I see you and I support you. I see you and I know that this is really hard. I see you and I know that you have needs and you have thoughts and you have feelings and ideas and dreams. And I'm all in. I'm here. I'm here to listen." We, as parents to children with different or difficult diagnoses, we all want to be seen and heard and understood and validated. So do the siblings. So do the siblings. And I want to say this again. The words you say will make an impact now, but the way you make your kids feel will stay with them forever. Thanks.
Thank you, Jessica. One thing that really brings to mind your talk is, it's kind of all woven together, but on relationships. I mean, especially, in adult relationships, no relationships are static, right? But when you're raising children, they're developing and evolving. And so they're changing as as the sibling who is affected is changing, they too are developing and changing. And so you're constantly trying to have to adjust to their developmental needs. And I think then too, as they get older, children have their own private lives that you're not always privy to, right? And so having that relationship so they can remain open or become open to what their private lives are is just, there's so many threads that are just constant as a parent. So I really appreciate your insight and your experience, and the gift of your work is to really worldwide, certainly across the country, and all the groups that you've started. So thank you so much for coming today. And again, if there are questions, you can put them in the chat. And now I'm going to just try to share my screen, which is always the hardest part for me. All right, so that was Jessica Patay. And now we have Christin Siscoe. Christin is a registered nurse and patient navigator with the UDNF, and has 18 years of nursing experience as a pediatric nurse, educator, and administrator. She has obtained numerous national certifications and awards for her compassionate care, innovative leadership, and profound advocacy work. Christin also participates in healthcare mission trips to Borneo in the Dominican Republic, where she provides free ENT surgeries on an annual basis. She currently resides in Rayville, Louisiana, with her sons Aiden and Cooper and niece Elena. Cooper is a UDN patient and attended the Duke site, where he was given a partial diagnosis of hereditary pancreatitis. Cooper and Christin still await, however, his rare autoimmune autoinflammatory diagnosis. With her recent move to a rural area in Louisiana, she is passionate about making sure all UDN participants are well served and served equitably. Welcome, Christin.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to share my screen real quick. So, as Sarah said, I have some history in pediatric nursing, but I can tell you through everything that I've been educated, I was not prepared for the dynamics that my older son, Aiden, would have with having a undiagnosed and medically complex brother. And I label this as our story because for so long I said Cooper's story until I realized that it's not just Cooper's story, it's our story. Each one of us have something that we're going through on a daily basis due to Cooper's medical journey. And I learned this late in his diagnostic odyssey. It was actually a therapist that brought it to my attention. Um, because yes, he is ultra rare and he's an undiagnosed patient, but it's our story because we're all affected by the challenges that this disease brings to us. So how we navigate it as a family makes it our story. And I challenge each of you to find how you're going to navigate it. What I do might not be what works for you. Every child is different. Every family is different. Um, Cooper was born prematurely, had an unaffected NICU stay. Just as we were sent home to grow as a family, that's where the challenges started due to Cooper being sick with unknown fevers, having to go to the doctor 2 and 3 times a day, sometimes every day during the week, until we could get to a point that we could get what we call his flares under control. And this caused a lot of challenges with Aiden due to the fact they're only 15 months apart. So there was a lot of them being in the same developmental stage. I was meeting Cooper's needs, but I wasn't meeting Aiden's. And all of that stuff I learned in nursing school came rushing back to me while I was in therapy. But as you can see, there's 3 things that work for us, and I will still work to this day. And I'm very proud to say that we've included them in Cooper's Diagnostic Odyssey and moving forward. The first one's inclusion. Due to Cooper having so many appointments, in town, out of town, specialists, we had to figure out a way that we could include Aiden and Elena in that. So what we do if Cooper has a specialist out of town that's going to take, a day of travel back, what we do is we try to schedule it on a Friday, and we spend the weekend as a family doing something fun and together, and then we travel back on the Monday. In the middle picture, this was when Cooper attended a special medical camp. He was in San Antonio, so we took the whole family. The first day before he checked in, we did SeaWorld and all the fun stuff together. And then Cooper got to go to camp, and Aiden and Elena got to choose what we did the rest of the week. Another thing that we've done is we try to do, if the appointments are local, then as you can see in the last picture, we do them after school so that everybody can be involved, know what's going on, and feel like that I'm being fully transparent with them. And they get to learn if they wish to. And if they don't want to go, it's not something they have to go. We ask if they want to go. If they want to go, they go. So the inclusion part was the first that has worked for us. The second is one-on-one time, and I love that Jessica mentioned this because it was something that I struggled with. A lot of my time was going directly towards Cooper. I had to realize when they were younger that when I got home from work and the boys got back from daycare or they got back from school, that Aiden and I allotted an hour's time or more just by ourselves, no distractions, one-on-one time with just sitting in a room playing. What this allowed him to do was kind of like Jessica said, he got to speak to me about things that were important to him with removing Cooper. He was more than Cooper's brother. He was trying at this age to identify who he was. So what I found was I had to figure out what made him happy and what he wanted to do. As he's gotten older, it's catching big catfish. So he goes on a catfishing trip. We try to do that at least once a month where it's just him, me, and Jason here. And then Cooper is with family or friends. As Jessica says, it takes a village. Build your village early. Don't be afraid to ask for help. The center picture was I actually just spent like 2 weeks in the hospital with Cooper. He was in ICU. I was exhausted, but um, Aiden was only allowed to come when he was out of ICU to see Cooper. There was a lot of separation from anxiety that he had from me. So we decided we were taking a weekend, just Aiden and I, to the beach to release all of that and hang out. Thankful that I had my village. They came in and stayed with Cooper, and we were able to return to the bedside on Monday, or at least I was refreshed and able to be there for Cooper. The last picture is what Aiden loves to do. That's his horse, Timmy. And that was a proud moment for me because it's English riding. A lot of boys do Western. And this was his opportunity to say, Mom, it's different. And I know it's different, but I need you to hear me out. And this is what I want to do. And he's excelled within the 2 years that he started riding. So that one-on-one time and making sure you're devoting that and giving the positive feedback with whatever you're doing during that time. And then the last one, of course, was therapy. I was lucky enough to identify this need early on, but I will say not everybody in the family agreed. Friends were questioning it. Like, Christin, you have this experience. You know what you're doing. Do you really need this? And yes, I did. I don't think I was as strong and fast to say yes, I did back then, but yes, I did. I was tired. I was tired. I needed to make sure, as Jessica had said, that I was a good parent and I was doing what we needed. Aiden was 5 when we all entered therapy and was already struggling with the diagnosis of ADHD and defiant disorder. So he could not communicate his feelings, and they were being expressed as jealousy and anger. And so what we did was we all did. There was Aiden went to therapy, Cooper went to therapy, and then I went to therapy with each one of them and therapy for myself. Full circle, they are now 13 and 12, and therapy is now once a month. And we've initiated a lot of the things we've learned into our everyday living and how we talk and communicate to each other at home. Some of the things that I saw that initiated me saying I need help, these are the things that Aiden felt or said. Cooper's your favorite child. You're always with him. I got this a lot when he was in the hospital, or if I wasn't able to make it to Aiden's extracurricular activities because I was running Cooper back and forth to doctor's visits. I never, or he told me, you never spanked Cooper, just me. This was for a 6-year-old, a very good observation because we couldn't. Cooper has where when he's in a flare, even one little rub against a piece of fabric, he bruises. So Cooper had learned that he could act out at this time as well, and we couldn't spank him. But Aiden also noticed that. And then I never get to miss school like Cooper. This was true. Cooper missed a lot to the point that we had to get a release from the doctor saying that he has an undiagnosed disease and to work with us through all of that. So what we implemented from that was that Aiden gets 2 skip days a year and his birthday. And that's kind of helped him feel like he has a little bit more say in power, and that Cooper's not always getting out of school and he's not. Pretending to be sick was a big one that we saw from Aiden. And that was more just wanting to stay home with me or wanting to stay home with family that was there caring for Cooper during that time. And that's disappeared due to the fact that therapy has provided him with the resources to be like I said, he had ADHD and was having problems in school, but giving him those resources to feel proud and confident in himself. Acting out to get a reaction as well. Um, what we've done with that and like this thinking, we've disciplined them both the same moving forward and utilize those tools we've gotten in therapy. So the nurse in me has to say, because I get a lot of questions, how do you say this to a child, or how do you tell a child this or a sibling about their disease? It really depends on their developmental stage. Erickson presents this. We also presented in Maslow's, and I'll go over that in the next slide. But having this and knowing what that child is going through, what stage, will help you define how you answer a question or how you're going to reply to a response that the child is giving you, either a verbal or physical response. Just make sure you're meeting the emotional and psychological stages of your child at each age. So, we'll, like Jennifer posted, we'll have these to send out. Maslow's is the hierarchy of needs. It's a theory, but pretty much you start at the bottom. If the bottom is not met, then it's a hard time climbing up to get that total feeling of security and pride. And this is with everybody, not just children. But in 2021, a research project focused on the spiritual and emotional needs of a sibling who had a chronic disease. The key findings showed that having a sick child impacted the well child in all the areas. And most importantly, the highest impacted area was the esteem area and self-actualization. So those were the highest amongst the children ages 8 to 16 that were in this study. They did it identify that early interventions um, supported eliminating these feelings and giving the siblings a better not feeling of doom, but feeling like they had some power in the family dynamics. The three main areas that they identified was advocacy, work, awareness, and mental health support or therapy. So just was interesting find that I found since we've implemented those in our family as well. And it seems like, not that we're perfect, we have our days, but overall, the kids are meeting each one of these needs and starting to blossom into their own unique identity of who they are and within Cooper's disease and uh, outside of it as well. Now, resources. These are a couple, there's tons of them, but like Jennifer said, we'll send them out. There's Rare Together 2020 film selections, the Courageous Parents Network, Stronger Everyday podcast, which is empowering the neurotypical sibling that's specific to siblings. So there's a link there. There's a resource guide on global genes that has all the past sibling summit presentations and resources there. The next ones are ICANN siblings. It's where siblings get to and siblings with a mission, same as Sam's Sibs Stick Together and Instagram. They allow the sibling of the rare child to actually tell their story, to advocate. And as we mentioned in that study, that was one of the big things that they found eliminated the siblings' feeling of doom or like there was something bad going to happen and they had no control. So I would highly recommend those last four ones if the siblings are old enough to interact. And then for families, the above resources, they will give you a bunch of internal links, and there's tons and tons of them out there. There's also great books that we can purchase, and I think we'll go over a couple of those in our questions. And then that's the end. If anybody has any questions, I'll turn it back over to Sarah.
All right. Thank you, Kristen. Wow, what a full almost hour we're at. I want to say, one thing that stuck out to me, Kristen, about your talk is the idea of therapy. I think there's a lot of pushback, especially if people are seen as like being a good parent or just going above and beyond, which it sounds like maybe you were perceived as doing and maybe even felt like you were doing. But I think therapy doesn't necessarily give you the answers. It can give you the support and the emotional support so that you can be a better parent. It's part of like self-care. So even if that therapist doesn't lead you to maybe answers that you're looking for, I think they can offer support that, when you're taken care of, then you can better take care of your own children and your own family. So thank you for sharing all that you shared. Like I said, we have several questions. I don't know if we have time for all of them, but one comment that I see here in the chat that came in, Jessica, there was an attendee today that is curious about your daughter and about her wondering if she had a diagnosis that you hadn't revealed to her. And I know if you could just talk a little bit about that experience and how that came up and how you responded.
Sure. Well, growing up, Kate didn't have a diagnosis that I was keeping from her, but because we didn't tell Ryan till he was 13, it made her think, she was 11 at the time. Oh, well, I wonder if there's something my parents aren't telling me because we waited to tell Ryan like so late. And, every family is different. Honestly, we didn't tell Ryan his diagnosis till we sort of felt like it organically was the right time. We were worried that it would just make him more anxious, more obsessive, that it wouldn't be helpful to him. And so we waited. And again, this is a family choice. You decide what's best. He certainly wasn't asking, but that doesn't matter. You decide as a family. I mean, Ryan would ask questions when he would notice maybe different diets between the kids or different portions. And we would say that, his brain and his body were different and he had to have a special diet. And that's why things were different when he started to observe certain things in regards to food.
All right. Thank you. And maybe both Kristen and Jessica could answer this. The question is, my kids are little, ages 4 and 6. What kinds of suggestions do you have for young kids to kind of encourage positive sibling dynamics?
Kristen, do you want to go first?
Sorry, I was getting everything else. Yeah, sure. I think positive dynamics, like there was a lot of tension between both of my kids. Because like I said, they're in that age group where they're only 15 months apart. I was treating one different than the other. There was dynamics and I wasn't meeting the needs of both of them. So I think what I learned was including them, like I did in my presentation, but also taking that one-on-one time to be just with Aiden or be with just with Elena with what they wanted to do. I had to show and be able to step away to show that I still had interest in who they were and who they were becoming. I will say that greatly helped. Also being transparent and using vocabulary that they could understand was able to help them understand that it wasn't a big, scary, oh, mama's just saying this is what's going on. They were able to understand it and they were able to comprehend it and kind of like validate it in their own little minds. But once again, I would say refer back to where each child is in their developmental stage and look at where they are, if they can accept what you're going to be giving them, because that's going to make a big outcome if they can't accept that part.
So good. So good. What I would add is that just check your expectations because I think we don't want to see any fighting. We don't want to see kids bugging each other. We don't want to see like kind of the typical sibling rivalry. And all of that is so normal. So be careful not to expect the siblings to never be upset and never get mad and never bug or nudge or set off, your child. And I think just creating opportunities for play and bonding. And one child life specialist that I follow, Child Life Mommy, if you look her up on Instagram or go to her website, she talks about medical play, which is not something that I had ever heard of when my kids were growing up. But it's a way to play with, toys and dolls and, medical equipment, so to speak. And it kind of can be a bonding, and it can be creative, and it can take the scary out of it all. Also, you want to assist the relationship, but it's not controllable. So I just want to, I don't know if that helps somebody, or it's like, darn it, as someone who, wanted to be able to control everything, and you realize the more that you parent, how little you can control. Just again, quality time and attention with the siblings, just like Christin said, is really, really important. And I think validate, validate, validate.
All right, thank you. I think that's going to be it for our questions. I just want to kind of wrap up quick before we end the hour here. Again, if you aren't on our email list already, you can go to udnf.org and sign up for our email list. Next month, we have a webinar on research in rare disease that we would love for you to register for and participate in. We are also in our year-end campaign to raise funds to be able to continue the work that we do, both online and in person. If you live in the Houston or St. Louis areas, maybe you already know that we were in your area in October. In 2025, we're looking at being at several new locations across the country. So again, getting on our email list will be a good way to find out all the news of the work that is going forward, because there's much work that needs to be done. So anyway, thank you all for coming, and we hope to see you again in December or in 2025 at one of the in-person locations that we'll be at. Thank you.